Okay, I'm shooting a quick follow-up video on yesterday's dialogue about metaphor and science, and I want to say that, yeah, I feel bad that I came home, I was not in a bad mood, but it was a long day and I was tired, and we suddenly, saw this video and responded, and I was, I guess, I don't want to be dismissive. I guess I was coming off dismissive, and I don't want that to be the sense. I guess I do want to say, though, I'm not really sure, as if there isn't a subtle arrogance among those people who think that they're better than those people who aren't in the debased, immature metaphor land. There just seems to be such an assumption there. It's so hard to phrase it other than, it's like I feel like I'm reacting to the arrogance that I'm perceiving. That's coming off very politely, admittedly. I'm not as good at masking my arrogance, perhaps. But let me just give you a couple of examples. Not only did the person suggest that, he doesn't mean that mature means better, well, then why use the word mature? I mean, it seems like a pretty bad word choice. I think we do think that immaturity is a bad thing. Well, you need to pick a different word, and the fact that you didn't notice, or seem not to notice, or seem not to care, I'm not sure which it was, that there was a loading of meaning in there, this is part of the problem. Part of the problem is that when people think about phenomena, even natural phenomena, they tend to assume there's background presuppositions, there's all kinds of emotional baggage, there's loadings in the terms that happen through metaphor. And I guess I'm not really sure why metaphor is somehow a bad thing. Like, why it is that if there is a language that's somehow, quotes, beyond metaphor, that will be a good thing. Now, let me, if I can go back even to math, I think this would be fun for me to just try to clarify for a moment what I meant when I said that your average semiotician would really want to problematize this. Now, let's take when you have, I tried to give the example before of a paradigmatic substitution, that's what it would be called in semiotics, of some person who, in an equation, you can say, well, that's 2, but actually 2 is actually 2 over 1. Actually, 2 over 1 is 8 over 4, right? I mean, you can do odd manipulations, and that's still the same, quotes, value, but you're substituting the symbol that you're going to use in the equation. Now, you're able to do that because there is a tautological purity of the terms that you're using. And this is, I gave the reference there to Bateson's essay on the difference between number and quantity. He says, you can have exactly 3 tomatoes. You can never have exactly 3 gallons of water. Always, quantity is approximate. I mean, I think the point that I'm trying to suggest here, if we understand what Bateson's saying, is that to the theoretical mathematician, this raises interesting questions. Now, if some person has a grade point average of 3.67, let's say, and then they say that the grade point average is a 3.6, is that a metaphor? I think it is, because it's an imperfect approximation and a substitution that's calling two things that aren't the same similar enough to be treated as the same. That's what we mean by a metaphor. Anytime you round off a non-repeating decimal and then use that in a mathematical equation, you're using a metaphor. Okay, let's go to pi. Now, if you're going to take pi, pi is a very interesting case. We say it's 3.14, but 3.14 we end up using not that 3.14. We use the symbol pi. Why? Because it's a non-repeating decimal, meaning any number that we would try to use would have to be a metaphor for it. When you start to move toward problems of the way different operating symbols within mathematics and within the basic sciences, to the extent that they ever use approximations and then substitute those approximations, you get a good guess, but it's based in metaphor. Now, I don't know why I'm having to haggle about metaphor. See, I don't know if people can see the awkward position of this. It's like I'm somehow, A, trying to suggest that metaphor is ubiquitous, and that B, it's important for people to realize this. All I want, really, is for some person who, from my perspective, thinks that the really dignified, true, mature, deep sciences, they're beyond metaphor. And that it's as if somehow you're dignifying or elevating or putting on a pedestal those sciences that could be without metaphor. Why? What would that mean? Why is literal language preferable to metaphorical language? I don't know that it is. Especially when there is the fact of oftentimes you want an approximate value, not an exact value. The exact value, it would take you all week to calculate. The approximate value, you could cut to the chase in a big hurry, and it may be just as good. Now, if you say that the approximate value is just as good without going into the gory details, to me, and again, please correct me, that seems like a metaphor. You're equating what's not equal. That's what that seems to be. I appreciate the engagement, P. Mathematica. I think that you're an interesting person. You're obviously a very smart person, and you're concerned about philosophical engagement. But I would like some more background on what it is exactly that, if your argument is right, will win the day. I mean, how will it be significant, important, and relevant to suggest that there could be a non-metaphorical language? I mean, why is that so useful?